I can't breathe. These three words that paint a picture across time and space for Black people. During the 1600s, as this captured land was being built, the demand for unpaid labor was high, and it fueled an unprecedented undertaking. The violent taking of over 20 million Africans sent over an ocean of tears to the New World. And these vessels, they were known to take up to 200 African men and women at the same time, in these magnificent machines of captivity, to make sure they had room to accommodate all of these people. They would tie them tightly to plank beds and stack them tightly on top of each other. I imagine they looked like sardines. I also imagine they found it hard to breathe. According to the Equal Justice Initiative, during the period between the Civil War and World War II, thousands of African Americans were lynched in the United States. These were often violent acts of torture. I've seen images of Black bodies hung from trees or poles with entire communities of white people smiling in murderous delight at the carnival-like affair. It is the revelry of it all that really disturbs me. Our bodies that have been raped and killed and exploited for the pleasure and edification of white men and women. It reminds me of a line from the HBO series Westworld. These violent delights have violent ends. If all of those Black men and women could speak as the rope tightened and constricted around their neck, they would have told you they could not breathe. From 1955 to 1968, we saw a war of attrition against the morally repugnant and inhumane treatment of Black people in America. History keeps telling us that it was a peaceful protest. That has always rang as a curious phrase to me, a peaceful protest. Dr. King was a man of nonviolence. We should follow his lead. Nonviolence is the way. In 1951, the NAACP proclaimed that year the year of the hate bomb. I wonder if the families lost in all of those bombings could breathe. I wonder if those 4 little girls could breathe as they inhaled the smoke and the flames that dried out and cracked their lungs like shattered porcelain. Throughout that nonviolent protest, Black people were punched, kicked, stabbed, shot, dragged, water tortured, raped, and once again, lynched. This is what white people remind us of as our finest hour, the ideal we should strive for. Dr. King was a hero. He had it figured out. How do you think Dr. King felt when a single bullet fired from a Remington Model 760 rifle entered through his right cheek, breaking his jaw and several vertebrae as it traveled down his spinal cord, severing his jugular vein and major arteries in the process, before lodging in his shoulder? They say that the force of the shot ripped King's necktie off. Do you think that made it easier for him to breathe on that fateful evening on April 4th? April 4th, coincidentally, is my sister's birthday. A day that is simultaneously a day of celebration and a day of abject terror in my heart. There are a lot of those. What followed was a series of riots in over 100 cities across the United States. A rage against the dying of the light held by Dr. King and so many of his contemporaries that were also killed. I wonder if they could breathe. When I was a kid, Looking back at the civil rights movement, I thought we had made so much progress in that time period, that these righteous warriors died so that I may live. And then I learned some disturbing things as I grew older. And as I looked past the surface of it all, like how African Americans make up 6.5% of the American population, but 40.2% of the prison populace. While a white male has a 1 in 17 chance of ending up behind bars, for black males like me, it is 1 in 3. You'll find similar horrifying statistics in education or in healthcare. Look at the mortality rate of black women giving birth. Something like 300% more likely to die. And the list goes on and on and on. And then Trayvon happened. A man named George Zimmerman killed him, shot him in the chest. He can't breathe. Eric Garner happened. As the cops approached him, he pleaded, "Get away for what? Every time you see me, you want to mess with me. I'm tired of it. It stops today." Why would you? Everyone standing here will tell you I didn't do nothing. I did not sell nothing, because every time you see me, you want to harass me. You want to stop me fucking selling cigarettes. I'm minding my business, officer. I'm minding my business. Please just leave me alone. I told you the last time. Please just leave me alone. And Officer Daniel Pantaleo cuffed him and slowly choked the life out of him. The previous year, Officer Pantaleo was the subject of 2 civil rights lawsuits. I don't know how he kept his job. Or perhaps I do. On the platform of Fruitvale Station, Oscar Grant was face down and handcuffed when Johannes, I don't even know how to say his name, Miserle, shot him through the back. I wonder how hard it was for Oscar to breathe as his lungs filled up with blood. Miserle was found guilty of killing Oscar, though. And for this heinous act, he was released on parole after serving 11 months. And then it kept happening. And we started filming the cops. That'll stop him. Michael Brown, August 9th, 2014, he can't breathe. Tamir Rice, November 22nd, 2014, he can't breathe. Let's march in the streets. They must stop then. It worked before. Eric Harris, April 2nd, 2015. His breath is gone. Walter Scott, April 4th, 2015. Helton Sterling, July 5th, 2016. Philando Castile, July 6th, 2016. They can't fucking breathe. Ahmaud Arbery, February 23rd, 2020. He can't breathe. 5 days ago, George Floyd died in Powderhorn, a neighborhood south of downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota. While Floyd was handcuffed and lying face down on a city street during an arrest, Derek Chauvin, a white Minneapolis police officer, kept his knee on the right side of Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Officers J. Alexander Kyung and Thomas K. Lane held Floyd's back and legs. Officer To Thao stood watch over them as an anguished crowd looked on sadly. Then George Floyd began to sing an all too familiar song. Are you sick of hearing me say it yet? I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And I think these three words mean more than the physical act of taking air into our lungs. I think it means, why can't I be free? And I think it means, why can I not be allowed to live? I just want to feel the air of the American dream fill my lungs and for once not fucking choke on it. Then protests happen in the streets. A long simmered rage of a people regarded as fodder from a bunch of feckless thugs who proclaimed themselves the kings of stolen land. A rage that boiled over when you took Nina Simone's King of Love. That boiled over when your cops beat Rodney King as a dog. We tried. We tried so hard to be peaceful. Even now and even still, we try. People taxed you without proper representation, and you killed 25,000 British. You condemn us about black on black crime. Why do you think there's violence in impoverished black neighborhoods? It is not because we as black people are predisposed to violence. It is because we are living in abject poverty. Because our people are denied education, health care, because we live in food deserts, and we are brutalized every fucking day by cops. Tell me, how can the people hope to maintain their humanity when they are forced into an invisible cage to live like animals for over 400 years? And now you want to, in the middle of our righteous anger, condemn us for saying no more. The American ideals you hold so dear were founded in the wake of oppression and violent revolution. This is a country that refuses to let go of guns. Every aspect of this alleged more perfect union was built with violence and aggression as its language, as its base code. All cops are not racist, you say? Well, enough of them are that they have irrevocably broken our people's trust in them. From the second we were freed, they were turned into instruments of slavery. Did you know that as soon as slavery was abolished, they made it illegal to loiter? And loitering, for those of you who don't know, is the simple act of standing or waiting without purpose. Do you know what would happen if you were caught loitering? You were chained and forced to work the cotton fields. It is slavery by another name, incarceration. The freedom we have is and has always been an illusion. The American experiment, an abject failure from the beginning. And it will be until those that benefit from the villainy of the past stand up and cede power and say no more. Until then, we are doomed to repeat the same damned cycle over and over again. And there are so very many things we can do to stop this never-ending cycle of madness. We could stop being so damned beholden to the Second Amendment, possibly the worst worded amendment ever. We could put money and effort into these underfunded communities, these underfunded people on a federal level. We could defund the police and dismantle our prison industrial complex completely. Since it was built to keep people enslaved, it needs to completely be reimagined from the bottom up in a way that promotes rehabilitation and not condemnation. We are continually traumatizing people with that system. And as we know, hurt people hurt people. We could stop dumping all of our money into the military. Our Navy alone is already larger than the rest of the world's navies combined. We could fund our schools and medical facilities, like we actually care about our people. We could make them palaces, as Sam Seaborn once dreamed. That's for the West Wing fans out there. We could pay educators a wage worthy of such a noble profession. And we could make it all free. Most importantly, you could just let us breathe. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. And here is Strange Fruit. Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees, pastoral scene of the gallant south, big bulging eyes and a twisted mouth, scent of magnolias, sweet and fresh, then a sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is the fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to write, for the trees to drop. Here is the strange and bitter crop. Ooh, 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 Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees, pastoral scene of the gallant South. Them big bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is the food for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rise, for the tree to drop. Here is a strange and bitter crop. Ooh,